district, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.
Welcome, Fantasyland, to the GOAT District. We've got a full house to kick off the new year. This is our first GOAT District episode of the year. Dan, how's it going, brother?
It's going great, man. It's, a brand new season coming up. We're starting to think about 2021 Dynasty. We still got the playoffs going on, so there's a little bit of everything. No matter what you like, we're doing it.
Yeah, the fun never ends in football, right? It's an all year round sport, especially in this house. So before we kind of get into the goodness, we want to wish everyone a happy new year. I hope everyone had a good holiday. And tonight, the point of tonight is really, like you said, Dan, there's playoffs. We did our playoff challenge stuff on Quarter Milli Billies. Go check that out. We've got another episode, actually, Dan, that I got to drop. Basically, us going through the decision process of making our rosters. But dynasty-wise, I mean, in the DMs, we're all trying to get trades done. We're going to get to some real goodness happening right now in Dynasty when we get to our boy Nelson. But actually, you know what? Let's go around and do a quick intro, and then we'll get into it. But basically tonight, we want to take the goodness of 2020 and then get into some hot takes, some 2021 forecasting. And we brought in a serious team, Dan, to kick off the year. And a lot of these guys are going to be with the GOAT District moving forward. And that's why we wanted to kick it off with a bang, introduce the boys, and kick it off with, just an episode with some for everybody this time of year. So since we're looking at the screen here, I'll go to the top shelf, the top corner, as we call it, up here north of the border. Our boy Theo, the OG Fantasy. How are you, brother?
Hey guys, happy New Year! Happy to be here. I just we had a great season and looking forward to 2021 starting up.
Yeah, man, we're excited to have you as part of the team and to have you on tonight. We appreciate you giving your time. I'm going to go right down between the legs, Dan. Again, a little hockey reference. We're going to go to my boy Nelson from the Dynasty.
The 5-hole, huh?
The little 5-hole. How are you, brother? Only my Minnesota brother knows about the 5-hole.
Man, I'm from Philly, and I've been described a lot of things, but man, the 5. I want to be known as the 5-hole from now on.
Yeah, I didn't have it ready.
Between the fights.
That's
hilarious. Well, thanks, guys, for having me on. As always, thanks for your support and all the love you've given to Dynasty Depot as we've gotten going here. And happy New Year to all you guys. And I'm looking forward to a great year this year.
Yeah, for those who haven't checked it out yet, dynastydepot.com, the Dynasty Depot. Follow Nelson and the crew there on Twitter. But we'll get to it a bit later in the show. But kicked off with a bang is one way to explain it. We didn't think any different. I was going to say before we start recording, before Dan said, "I hope you're recording, JD." We should have put an over/under on how many teams you might be moving, changing hands on the site during that first week.
We're blessed, first of all, but sometimes look out for what you wish for. with 300 teams sold in the first 7 days, we're shocked. We're shocked that listen, when you put something together like that, you're hoping that the proof of concept is there and the public accepts it. You can have all the great ideas in the world, but until you put it out to the public, you don't know. So we have a lot of improving to do. We'll talk about it later, but we're off to one hell of a start. I think we're on to something here.
Good, man. We're glad to hear it. And we'll, like we said, we'll dive a little deeper a bit later in this show. I'm going to go to your left, Nelson, to Schelly, the second man when it comes to the quaff. How are you, brother? Happy New Year, man.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Happy New Year. I'm just happy that I'm a taxpayer this year, as opposed to writing off all my losses in fantasy as a tax deduction. So I feel blessed here going into 2021.
I love the way that's a great way to put it. That's actually it's kind of like how I feel about my job and like my bonus and stuff. Like, I'm just happy to have my job, at the end of 2020. If I still have my job, everything else is gravy, and it's kind of like the same thing with fantasy. Like, if you're, like you said, if you're not claiming losses, then it's a good year. And, as crazy as 2020 was, that's a good year if you cashed in fantasy. John, how are you, brother? How was your 2020?
My 2020 has been awesome. Fantasy football related, it was great. This is my fourth year in a row. I'll be starting doing a live 12-team, 30-round local Dynasty startup draft from just all local people I met on Twitter from the Chicagoland area. I just every year I try to find guys on Twitter from Chicago and talk to them and ask them who wants to play or anybody want to be interested. And we got to meet up, and it's all in person stuff. And I don't do any drafts besides like the fishbowl and the eliminators that are online. Everything else I always do is all in person drafts. So just doing these drafts, I've been lucky enough to get being leads with they're all in my leagues. Ryan Livergood from Fantasy Joe's, Kyle August from the Fantasy Smackdown, Scott Sidlow from Trade Addicts, Paul Winterhalter. James the Brain was our favorite. He was awesome until God rest his soul, he passed away this year. But to be in leagues with him, man, he was just an awesome guy all around. So, these guys are in my backyard. We're at bars talking, BSing, doing our draft lotteries, having a good time. Starting a new league every year has been something that I find so enjoyable, and this is my fourth one, and in 4 years, and this is what I look forward to. And then, this, like you said about jobs, my wife and myself have been so lucky to have jobs, provide for our family through this all COVID stuff, and I got 4 kids, 16, 17-year-old girls, 23 and 19-year-old boys. I'm only 45, so they kind of let me in their life a little bit. I'm not like the old man that they're afraid of. So I still used to go out, play basketball, do things. They let me in. They really opened up to me. I'm not just their dad or their coach anymore. I'm becoming their friend as they get older. So it's been pretty nice having all this time with just each other in the house.
That's cool, man. See, that's a really good thing that comes out of 2020, Dan. I know, you had your girls home for a bit and sometimes, I don't know. Yeah, I know your girls are away for school and stuff, right? So, yep. But were they home a bit more? Did you feel you got a bit more quality time with the girls during this COVID craziness?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They came home for spring break last year, and never went back to school basically until the fall. So we had them for a few months there, and then a nice long Christmas break as well. So it was just fantastic to have the family together. We really enjoyed the time. Not going to lie, when they get to that age, they're, by the time Christmas break was over, they were a little bit ready to get out of mom and dad's hair, and totally understand that. I was that age once, so, but it's just fun to watch them, growing up and becoming responsible adults, and just, figuring out what they want to do with their lives and pursuing it, and just being so, they just have that, that joy of life, that comes with, when you're on the cusp of being able to achieve, it seems like whatever you want to achieve. And, that's where they're at their point of life right now. So it's always fun to watch that.
Yeah, my son's going back to University of Wisconsin-Whitewater on Friday. That's so they're finally going back to in-person classes, at least some of them anyway. So I'm super happy about that. He's pretty happy about going back to the college life too. I like to get him a bunch of cases of beer that had Green Bay Packers stuff all over it, unfortunately. But whatever. He has a good time up there. He's meeting new people, and that's what it's all about: going through college and living life.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Sure.
You guys are talking about in person. We just went total lockdown up here, like complete lockdown, curfew, the whole deal. Everything's closed. Nothing happening for a while, for a few weeks anyways. So interesting times continue.
Yes.
Schelly, I'm going to go to you, brother. 2020. I know, you're talking about your fantasy football. Is there anything else? Was that kind of your 2020 goodness?
No. Well, that was great, but I mean, I really appreciate you guys sharing your experiences.
By the way, I want specifics. I want to know numbers. By the way, just I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
For sure. If the FBI and IRS are listening, I'll make sure to give the exact numbers. So I travel for work 80, 90% of the time, or at least used to, again, before March. And obviously, I've been able to make a nice transition here to working from home. But I think, JD, Dan, you guys are the hashtag girl dad life. I've got a 7 and a 4-year-old myself. And so actually, I hear you guys' experiences. I would tell you that I've loved being home with them the last X number of months and Y number of months going forward, right? But I was able to, when they were doing the homeschool stuff, be home with them. That was awesome. But then, seeing swim team, coaching soccer, being able to actually help out and be around during the weekdays, which I otherwise, quite honestly, would never have been able to do. I would have otherwise told you that this was actually 2020 was a pretty positive year, at least in the Schelly household. So yeah, great times at home. So I echo a lot of the sentiments that are being said here.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. There's some hardship and people who, my dad, I've mentioned on the show, just took a beating, during that whole time, just because I guess he's at that age, 70s. A lot of his friends just didn't make it through for whatever reason. But personally, just my little compound over here with my girls. In 2020, Dan, you might have heard me say, just when it comes to being handy, I'm just not handy. I'd use that almost as a crush or an excuse. And then this year during the COVID, we bought kind of this older property just because we wanted a little more space. It was getting kind of crowded where we were. And it was the first old type of house. And it was oh, you know what? I'm not handy. We're going to hire someone or get people to come in. So I finally said, you know what? I'm going to start doing stuff around here and just figure out how to do it. And a couple things that I did was I built a fire pit and I built a rink for my daughter in the back. And I didn't know it. She's 4.5. I had no idea if she would be into it or want to use it. She's out there. She's doing 2-a-days with her little hockey stick, and she's got 2 pucks and a ball. She's just skating around that thing, chasing the puck around. She loves it. Awesome. She wants to do the campfire, the marshmallows, the playing hockey. And that just makes me feel awesome, and that's I don't know that happened. Maybe it still happens, if 2020 wasn't the way it was, but that's something awesome other than my fantasy football victories that Dan's probably sick of hearing about. That's some goodness. But Nelson, Dynasty Depot launched in it was a big deal. Is there something other than this great success of a website that you took that was good and positive out of 2020?
You know what? It's really funny because as the show sheet comes out and you put a question down that we're all going to talk about, I mean, it's unique. I have 4 kids under the age of 13 in my house. And when are you going to find a year where you can have lunch with them every day? You can see their school habits. You learn so much from being around these kids. It's just a unique situation. When kids are at home, it's almost better. The family gets tighter. You would think that you've been around these kids. You're going to jump off a cliff or run to Vegas. I might do both, but being around them all the time, it's really unique, to get their lunch hour and be out and go work on their free throws, when they're around. It's, there'll never be another time like this. And there probably has never been another time in our lifetime where everybody in the household is around, and, it's made the families tighter. It just has. And it's just a unique situation. And you wish for the best for everybody out there, but, and fortunately we live in an area where the kids have their choice to go in or not. And the schools are cool because you don't have to go to school, and you can still show up at the end of school and go to, play ball, play football, whatever the kids are doing at that time. And, it's a chance to be part of their lives on a 24/7 basis. And, I have an older set also, once they hit 16, you're done. They don't want any party, and that's it. So to have young ones around that appreciate it, appreciate dad being around the house because he's around the house. It's very unique. It's a blessing, kind of.
Most will see our families until we all retire.
It's
exactly
the truth. It'll never happen to you, but you think, listen, when this went down, anybody that's got little kids had the same thing. How the hell am I going to sit in this house with these kids for the next year, right? And you adapt, you adjust, and you learn, and it's been a valuable experience for everybody. It'll make families closer. It really will.
I think that's one of our biggest qualities as humans is adapting. Like, we are just very good at adapting to whatever, we like, you lose some battles or, in the war, but we're really quick to adapt too. And this is one of those things where we just saw it happen in months, you're talking about months. Now there's vaccines coming out. I mean, you hope that everything turns around, and
it will, but, and then you think of it on the wives' sides, right? What the wives hate sending the kids out to school to the unknown of what's going on. It's dangerous out there. And, to have the wives are happy because they got everything in the nest right here, right? They got control of everything. Who you're around, if you're allowed to be around somebody, you take out,
What do you mean, Nelson? They don't like control. What are you talking about?
Well, I don't do anything. I'm the 5-hole, remember? So, the 5-hole is to go through, and I funnel everything to the wife, right? So, that's how it works around here. I just
we're gonna call Nelson through the wickets.
I'm gonna get on Twitter and get another account. I want to be known as
wickets. Yep. Wickets.
I'm comfortable with it, Danny. I'm comfortable with the whole thing.
Theo, did I hit you, man? I'm gonna keep asking tonight because there's too many people for me to keep track of. Did we get your 2020 goodness?
Oh no, I very much like you guys. The advantage to remote working is getting to spend time with your family. Like you guys, I have kids. I have 3 little ones that are all 6 and below. And last year I had 2 little guys doing remote learning. It was difficult, but it was very rewarding for us to get a chance to spend time all together as a family. I'm up here on Long Island, and this year we've been fortunate that my daughter, who's a kindergartner, has been going to school in person. So we're very happy about that. I did not want to. My wife and I did not want to have to teach her kindergarten. So that's been fortunate. But I think like you guys said, it was a change, but it really makes you appreciate the small things in life and appreciate the people that you're closest with. So we're very fortunate, and I'm hoping like you guys that next year it's going to be a lot more normal. But 2020 was an interesting one, but we're very blessed to have such a great family and be able to spend time with them. So
totally.
JD, I'm gonna give you a quick funny story about this. So, because since we're all basically on the same subject and what he was just talking about. So, if you remember back in the fall when everything, or the winter, whenever it was, when everything all hell broke loose and all the kids were home all of a sudden, right? And it goes into, now you have to be the teacher, right? So, they were homeschooled. The schools didn't have curriculums for the kids. It was just a shit show out there. So I tried to grab the reins, and I'm going to be the teacher, right? So after the first day, my kid looked at me and instead of calling me dad, said, "We're going to call you Mr. Dick because you're the worst teacher." I said, "You know what? That's fine. Mr. Dick quit. Now you got mine." Right. Little 12-year-old looked at me right now. He's like, "We're going to call you Mr. Dick. You're horrible at this."
That's hilarious. My daughter's junior kindergarten, and in the morning, me and my wife and they went from, like, for some reason they tried to do a full day with them. Like, she's 4.5. Like, my daughter's pretty good in, like, I was surprised by how much she participates and stuff. But by 2:00, man, she's done. Like, she's had enough. So now it's like 3 1-hour sessions that they split up. But in the morning, my wife and I are looking at each other. We're like, those teachers do not get paid enough. Like, they've got 20 like 4.5-year-olds picking their nose, like looking up at the sky, playing with whatever's around, and they're so energetic and into it. And I'm thinking, wow, they should get like triple whatever they get paid, because I don't have that energy. Like, it's just and you hear it all the time. But now we're kind of seeing it because we see our kids getting taught at home, and you see what the teachers got to do all day, which is not easy. Right, Mr. Dick?
I can't believe that you guys do this with the younger kids. I would be absolutely. I didn't do my own homework in school, so I have no idea how to do theirs. Even probably after 3rd grade, I'd be lost in math and that, and that stuff. But I had the luxury of having kids that do everything by themselves. They're junior in high school, sophomore in high school.
Luxury.
It's awesome. I just sit back and let it all happen. I mean, my daughter works at the mall at the Miss Fields Cookie Factory, so every day she comes home with all leftover cookies, and we have I got a maid over here compared to what you guys.
And I think we found who's going to do the show sheets. Right? I've got a lot of time on his hands. Nice.
Yeah, no doubt.
Nice. All right.
At the very least, we're going to make him bring the refreshments.
Exactly.
Jameson and ginger ale for everyone.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. Before we get into the football side of things, because we're gonna zero it back to why we're here at the end of the day is to talk football and what goodness we got out of 2020. But I want to go back to you, Nelson, because we kind of touched on it. We're big supporters of the site. Dan and I are obviously, our partnership with FFPC is huge, and the support that they give us and Alex over there is just awesome. And anyone who deals with them, I even today I was just randomly on there. I think it was Will from True North, or saying, or Viridian, just saying the customer service level is just amazing over there. And we've got this awesome partnership with them, awesome partnership with you, and it kind of works really nicely. And you guys just recently launched, so for the people who don't know yet, for whatever reason, maybe they just came on or got turned over to the show, explain to them what the Dynasty Depot is really quickly, and tell us about the success that you guys have had in this very short period of time.
So we opened up Dynasty Depot last Monday. I know some of you guys remember. So we opened up the site on a soft launch at 8:00 at night, and we went live to the public at 9. And if you had your phone on at 8:00 last night, you saw what happened. We were notifying everybody by text on every new team posted. So there was 200 notifications you got between 8 and 8:20. A very large player from FFPC contacted me at about 9:15, and he's like, "Dude, you need to turn this shit off now." So the public jumped on the idea. We did a good job promoting it. You did a good job promoting us, and we hit the ground well above what we thought. We sold 300 teams in the first week. The site still has over 260 Dynasty teams right now to purchase. So what we've done after we got out of crisis mode, we went into, now we're listening to what people want. So for what the people don't know, Dynasty Depot is an auction site for FFPC Dynasty teams. There is a membership, but you could try it for free if you just click on the site, dynastydepot.com. Click the SiriusXM ad, you get a free month. You can jump on, try it, see what you like. So we've made enhancements. We've done things already. People requested to see the buy it now on the home sheet. We got that up. We have tons of things coming at you, but the popularity of the site this early, it's humbling for us. We weren't ready for it. couple guys that threw their money in and had an idea, and let's see what happens. But the public has accepted this, obviously, and we're going to keep making enhancements and keep making it a better site and user friendly. Like I said, over 280 teams I think are on the site right now. You can buy a $250 team for $20. I saw one on there, and I've seen $250 teams go for $800 already. So what we're finding right now is the market's settling down. People, listen, you look at your teams, you think, Dan looks at his teams and, man, I don't have a bad team, right? You're the greatest because Dan is the greatest. So people, yeah, there you go. I was looking at it. I don't have that button.
I may have a skeleton or two in the closet.
Yeah. So the market's finally starting to react like it should, and people are posting teams at the right prices now, at realistic prices, and I'm seeing a lot better action lately with better deals out there for people. So it's rolling right along right now, JD.
And for those who don't know, like the reason that we kind of, obviously we have this partnership with Nelson, but the reason this is such a good idea is, if anyone is not aware, is not on the FFPC yet, it's not easy to get a dynasty into these dynasty leagues because they don't fold. Like once you're in, I've been my first dynasty on the FFPC, which I just won this year, just again for that 1,000th time. It's the first thing I joined on the FFPC, and I think we've only had maybe 2 new owners in the whatever, I don't know, it's been 5-6 years, maybe even longer now. I'm bad with time, but they don't fold. And that's the reason, Nelson, that this site is just so valuable, because now you have the opportunity. For me, the way I look at it is, Dan, we talk about, we walk the walk on this show. Like I've gotten rid of a lot of my dynasty teams. I'm playing on the FFPC or in the GOAT leagues. And, otherwise there's maybe a very select few leagues with friends and stuff. And the reason is because you can build a dynasty, you can draft a team. We all get caught up in the offseason and we're all going to join way too many leagues. But the benefit here with Dynasty Depot is you can draft all these teams, those too many leagues. And, you come into the season, you're like, maybe I shred 20% of these teams, maybe whether it's my best ones that I've drafted or my worst ones, or maybe the leagues that I find are the most active, I'll stay in those. And then I'll, try to sell the teams. But like Nelson said, you can go on there and buy a 250 or a 500, which is a hard league to get into to begin with, because they only have like the FFPC is only opening a very select amount of new dynasty leagues every season. Correct. And it's for that reason. They don't want the leagues to die out. Those leagues are pumping from the get-go. Right. And now this is an in, right?
It is. And I think it's not like I'm starting to give the nuances and seeing what's cool. I mean, you look at it this way. You draft a maiden team, right? And you're one of those guys that wants 3 or 4 first-round picks, right? So you're going to tank this year, but you want 3 or 4 first-round picks. I've seen, and I've bought already on Dynasty Depot, multiple teams. You're a year ahead of time. This guy went through the maiden draft, collected 3 or 4 ones, wasn't going to have a good team this year, has a couple other key players in there. You're able to buy that team now. Okay, you can buy a team with 1 good running back, a young running back, a couple good receivers and a tight end, and 4 first-round picks. Now, you're where that guy wanted to be this year, but he bailed for whatever reason he decided to bail on. And that stuff's getting snapped up.
By the way, Nelson, up here in Canada, we call those owners ninnies.
Ninnies.
You're just a ninny. If you're going to blow your first season for 4 first, get them. Yeah,
it's kind of like shooting the puck through the 5-hole, right, JD?
And missing the 5.
And missing. Yeah. Right. So there's different angles to the whole thing. The good players, we're sitting and waiting and bidding. What we're shocked at is people are using to buy it now. And I guess it all comes down to fantasy football, and we're all gamblers in one way or another that do this. And people aren't shy. A 250 team, and the bidding's around 250, and to buy it now is 350. I've had 5 or 6 teams just get pulled out from under me. People are they're buying the teams that they want to buy.
So it's kind of that eBay feel to it with the buy it now versus the auction.
Correct. There, the first week, 70% of the teams sold were on buy it nows. It was a shocking number to us. So
that means the pricing is good too. That means the owners are not trying to, like suck everything. They're reasonable with their pricing, which is awesome. Which is probably one of the reasons why it's done so well.
It is, but I think the other reason why is that the $77 player now is an opportunity to get into a $500 league for a couple $100. He doesn't have a big investment, spin it around. And I guess the beauty of this whole thing that we were talking today is you can buy a team and it doesn't go exactly how you want. Now there's a market where you don't have to pump this money in for 4 or 5 years because you butchered it or made a mistake, which we all do except for Dan, right? So there's a market to move these teams out, next year or now. And we think the biggest thing to Dynasty Depot is going to be when the maiden drafts begin, because the good drafters, listen, everybody wants, I don't care, you can start a maiden team, and you got 1 first-round pick, okay? So, Najee Harris is on your wish list. You're probably not going to end up with him in a 12-person snake draft. Somebody's probably going to take him from you. You're going to be able to go get the players you want because the good drafters are going to draft these rookies in the right spots, and those teams, I think, are going to be extremely valuable moving through the spring.
I think some people are going to treat this like almost like a best ball. I'm going to buy like 10 teams, draft them, and then depending on how good they are, I'm going to sell them.
So we use the term when we put this business model together, we felt really strongly that people are going to day trade these teams. And the good drafters are going to be able to make some money on this, and the public's going to buy them because let's face it, 90% of the people out there are not good drafters, right? That's why you see a lot of the same names. I come on, tell you're one of the best, brother. You see a lot of the same names at the top of the list, at the end. So then the other thing is, which we're thrilled about, which we talked a little bit about, and then I'll move on because I don't want it all to be about the 5-hole here. But the leaderboard, which people don't even realize is happening. So every team purchased on Dynasty Depot hits our leaderboard. Your points are going to transfer from FFPC weekly to Dynasty Depot. Prizes are, we're giving away 4 main event seats. So anybody that bought like a Superflex best ball, there's not a ton of those teams. So it's a really good lottery ticket to win a main event seat. Second prize in points is a $500 free Dynasty team. So we're giving away some great stuff. We created that game within a game that people don't even realize because of the euphoria of the site right now. But when things settle down, there's really good value that we've built into it.
Nelson, it's not going to settle down. That's the beauty of it.
I'm not sure if I'm happy or sad about that. Mixed emotions.
All right, guys, let's get into the football of it. By the way, Scott Fish, you just sent me an email. Yes, I will pay my fee for 2021. It's coming. It's coming, brother. I will send that right away. Guys, let's get into football. Like, Schelly, you and I are sharing this great feeling from 2020, from victories and winning. But what did you take out of it? What is it that what positive did you take out of 2020 that you're going to take into 2021 when it comes to fantasy?
Yeah, I am taking away that rookie running backs are here to save the day at the end of the season, as long as you can get to the end of the season. Now, I think that, a couple years ago, right, Nick Chubb was there to save the day. I think last year, again, the Jacobs and the Miles Sanders, I think that they were sort of steadily there, but not like the rocket ships. Whereas I think like this year, as I think about the Jonathan Taylor starting to smash, towards the end of the season, if they had like free J.K. Dobbins, who knows? But I think my lesson is, you need something to sustain you at the beginning of the season, but the rookie running backs are there as that jet engine right when you need it the most. So that's my biggest takeaway. Now, of course, I'm really putting aside the James Robinson, who was a rookie and was obviously a smash play all year. I think that that's not going to be repeated. But again, I think that these guys that have the good draft capital, that are the studs, that we expected to be the studs, They're going to start slow. It's nature. Expect it, and then hope that you can sustain yourself for the championships there at the end of these guys.
I'll go to Theo. What's something you took out of 2020 that that's a positive for fantasy when you think back to the year that just passed?
I think that the big takeaway for me was the success of receivers on new teams. 2 years ago we saw it. We saw it a little bit with some of the rookies especially. But this year, 10 out of the top 36 receivers were on new teams. Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Cooks, Robbie Anderson all cracked the top 20. And then you have a couple other guys like CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk. They all came in there and made their marks. I think that's something that continues. I think that new receivers, we used to be kind of scared of guys on new teams for fantasy, the unfamiliarity with the system, unfamiliarity with the new quarterback, and we'd always expect a little bit of regression. I think it's kind of the opposite. I think that you have to look at this upcoming free agent class, the Kenny Galladays, the Chris Godwins, the Allen Robinsons, and then this outstanding, incoming rookie class again that we're expecting from this draft. That we all saw Devonta Smith just crush it on Monday night. Jamar Chase and I know Rashad Bateman. We're all big fans of him. So I think this is my takeaway: is new receivers on new teams is something that we all need to embrace. I don't think it's going away. I think that it's an exciting thing for us. It makes projecting a lot harder, but I think if you find guys in the right situation, you just dive head first. And I think that's my big takeaway from this season. And I fully expect it. I think that, if you start looking at there's a chance that we have 2 receivers drafted in the top 6 of the NFL draft. And when you start going down the names of the upcoming free agents, a lot of these guys are going to be on new teams. And I think that we, kind of expect a guy like Chris Godwin to just re-sign. But I actually think that it's going to be the opposite. I think it's going to be just kind of a little bit of chaos this offseason. And I think that when you're starting to do your rankings, you're going to see a lot of receivers on brand new teams.
I mean, Theo, I love that. I mean, I think that like Galladay and Godwin, as you brought up, I mean, you may see based on like the people being scared away, right? Is you're saying embrace it, right? They may end up in that 5th, 6th round, just like Diggs was this year. Like he may be like in that same round. And I know Keenan Allen wasn't a new receiver, but I think of those guys at that 5th, 6th, 7th. And I think your point is great because I think that people are going to be scared off of these guys on new teams, and they're just going to kill it, right? They proved that in a COVID year, like virtually learning new systems, right? They're still able to develop that chemistry quickly. So I love that point that you made.
Theo, I agree with like everything that you said right there, and to make another point of what you're saying and what Shell just said is that people overthink it a little bit. Like somebody that's good at football is just good at football. And Diggs, if you drafted him, you probably won. And if you came back in the 7th round and drafted Keenan Allen, you definitely won. Okay, so it's people like that. I just think we overthink it. No quarterback, in LA, who's going to throw it to him? Draft Herbert, nobody knew that. Everybody's thinking Tyrod Taylor. He's going to have 60 catches instead of his usual 100 and some. And we overthink it. I think the good players are just good players.
I think that.
Let me ask you guys just a quick question. And Theo, I'm going to ask you because you brought this up. Do you think that this is a product of 2020, or do you think that this is just a myth that has been proven contrary to what the masses thought? Because Dan and I have talked about it on this show. I talk about it often, about the rapport between a quarterback and a receiver. And as much as I had Diggs on a lot of teams and I kept him, I did have a concern, like a lot of fantasy with the rapport and how quickly that rapport is going to build. So do you think something happened with this whole COVID scenario where something's changed and these new rookie receivers are coming in and adapting quicker? Or do you think that this was just a myth that was out there that's just been kind of squashed in 2020?
Well, I think it could be a little bit of both. I think that this was, besides 2014, I can't think of a more talented rookie wide receiver class I don't know if anybody else has an opinion on that, but when you start looking at these receivers that came in, they were immediately NFL ready. 2 seasons ago, you had A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, and a few other guys come in immediately ready. So I think that it's a little bit of guys are coming into the NFL a little bit more prepared for the pro game. I think that I've seen the argument that the high school passing offenses have gotten a lot better. So guys are coming into college ready to make more of an impact, and it's kind of carrying on where you're seeing, guys break out at 18, 19 years old in college, and then they're carrying that on to the NFL. But I think it's more of what Nelson brought up, where you're betting on the talent, where when you see a Kenny Golladay, you can convince yourself that, if the guy's healthy, I'm worried about him with this new quarterback and this new system. I mean, outstanding talent. NFL offensive coordinators are going to find a way to get them the ball and find a way to feature them, whether it's right away or whether they've been with the team for 2 years. I think that that's just something that will continue. So could it have been a little bit of 2020? The defenses didn't have as much time to prepare. You could make that argument, but I think it's more of a just betting on talent. And I think we're in a vintage era of receiving talent in the NFL. I know I spoke to you and Dan a little bit about this the other day. If you start trying to rank your wide receivers for this upcoming season, just your redraft rankings, it's almost impossible. It's such a deep, deep group at this point. It's easy for you to rank maybe the top 5, and then after that, it just gets so difficult. So personally, I think this is a trend. I don't think it's just a 2020 thing, and I look forward to continue.
Let me give you an example of 2 receivers on a team that were just not drafted in the right spots because of what people thought. They took the talent away, didn't analyze the talent, analyze the position in the spot. So you take Minnesota, okay? Cousins throws the ball 19 times a game. That's the quote, right? Running back, cook, right? And then you look where Jefferson was drafted. You look where Thielen was drafted in redrafts. Okay, a lot of talent there. We all got it wrong, right? We all got it wrong because we didn't think Cousins would put it up as much as he did. What do we know, right? They still ran the ball a ton. They threw the ball a lot more this year. And look at the years those 2 had there. It's a perfect example of talent over perception.
Right. Yeah, and I think, one of the other kind of hidden factors, and it's one of my takeaways from 2020, is the importance of having a really good quarterback. And I know I'm probably stealing JD's thunder there because he was probably going to use that one. But anyway, it's so true. I mean, if you were going to win in fantasy, I was kind of trolling back through my best balls, and really it was in a lot of cases, the difference between first place and third or fourth place was, really hitting it on quarterback. If it wasn't that, it was Justin Jefferson. It's like one of those 2 factors, but it's such a huge part of it. And I think we have, I do think Theo is exactly right. We have a little bit of a renaissance going on at the wide receiver position, with the influx of talent from 2020, because there were some lean years in between 2014 and this past year. The other thing is there's been a real renaissance in the quarterback position itself, and we're seeing a lot of good signal callers come in. You think back into the early 2010s, like 2012, 13, 14, there were just not a lot of great quarterbacks. There was, you had your Peyton Manning and you had your Tom Brady and Drew Brees and, Phillip Rivers and all that, but there were just a lot of teams that were really just, messing around at quarterback and had really terrible options. And I think that kind of made it a little bit harder for wide receivers to be as trustable, or at least as many wide receivers to be as trustable. The game has changed a little bit offensively. It keeps favoring the offense. It keeps favoring the passing game. And so you have that, plus these quarterbacks coming in that are more pro ready, and have hit a little bit more often than what they were hitting in the mid 2010s. And then you add in that great receiver class, and it all just kind of works together.
A big part of that also is when we were kids, it was back in my day, as my kids say to me, you were supposed to play wrestling, you were supposed to play baseball, you were supposed to play, some other sport. Every season you're supposed to play something different, and it was kind of frowned upon to only play one sport. Where now these kids, even in Chicago where it's snowing outside, there's indoor clinics for everything. In Florida, Georgia, down the south, you were in 7-on-7s when you're in third grade with your pads on. You're doing not hitting, but you're in passing clinics. You're in just receiving things every day. You're in a jugs machine, or the quarterbacks are trying to hit targets. And now it's not. Now it's kind of frowned upon to play other sports besides football. If you're a football player, you got to make a decision as a kid. What do I want to do? Do I like baseball more? Do I like football more? And that's what you're doing now. So get ready for it. And 7 days a week, they're stuffing football down your throat. So when by the time you're in 8th grade, 20 years ago, the 8th grade kids are almost where the high school kids were now, as far as that goes. They are so prepared. They know how to read defenses already in the 5th grade, 6th grade. They already know that. Not that it's sophisticated NFL defenses, but they already have an idea of what to look forward to. They're so far ahead of where we were when we were kids. It's unbelievable. And that just shows when the recruiting for all these schools, I couldn't imagine being a college coach right now and saying, "Man, where do I go? I can go to 50 states and grab a kid from anywhere that's just an unbelievable player." It's spreading like that way. It's spreading like that where the talent it's a volcano. Even the quarterbacks now. You never, like you said, the quarterbacks from before. You always had a handful of good ones. We have a surplus of outstanding quarterbacks in the league, and every year you look up and there's 5 new ones coming in that are better than some of the players who've been around the league for 10 years already. This is going to be a trend that I think is going to keep continuing, and we're going to have, how do you rank your first 10 quarterbacks? How do you rank your first 10 receivers? How do you rank your first 5 or 7, 10 running backs? Same thing with even the tight ends now are starting to produce when they come in younger. These kids are just ready for football now.
Yep.
I'll jump in with a couple. I know personally, and I've mentioned this a couple times, just the amount of teams that I managed during a season was a little extreme in 2020. I did really well with the teams that I focused on, but it made me realize that it got to a point, and I think anyone in the FFPC, because of the 2 days on waivers, it gets pretty stressful, man, trying to get through all your rosters, making sure you plug in the holes and you put in the bids and, the amounts and all that stuff you got to go through twice a week. So for me, I'm pulling, and I think a lot of people that I've spoken to are doing this, but just pulling back and focusing on the leagues that are active, that you have a good rapport with the people in the league, whether it's in the DMs or on Twitter, or there's a lot of interaction going on, but leagues that you enjoy, to kind of focus on those and give those everything that you have, as opposed to being spread thin, through like 30, 40 leagues. And maybe you're sending out one trade offer, every whatever month or whatever it is in that league. So maybe give a bit more to, I know, John, you talked about doing, less, but you do a lot of live leagues, and you seem to do less. And I feel like, that you said you got all this time on your hands. Maybe that's why, but I just feel like when I am able to give the amount of time that I need to a league, and I'm sure that's the everyone's challenge, I feel like the results come with it. And that's something that I'm going to be careful. Glad to have the Dynasty Depot, so that if I do go off of that, this little New Year's resolution, then at least I have a backup where I can just
fall off the wagon there. It's hard, especially when the maidens start drafting. And I've talked to you about, I have, I think, real close to 100 leagues, Dynasty teams, and I'm down to about 70 now. I'm pretty happy about that. I can breathe a little bit. But
the look on Schelly's face right now.
Well, yeah, he's in 3/4 of the 100 with me. So, I'm not getting any mercy, any tears from up there. But you're right. It's hard. It's hard to focus on them. I mean, I counted twice this year. Out of, I think I was managing close to 100. Twice I started a kicker that was on bye, which was embarrassing for somebody that thinks they're a pro at this. And it's really hard to do. You're right. You could try to scale down all you want, but it's hard. Once those maidens start popping, it's we all want. I would probably say everybody at this table right now wants to do that. Probably sit here June 15th, did you scale down? Probably everyone else going to say no. We've got about the same or more we had last year. It's tough. It's an addiction, right?
Yeah, I only have probably 13 leagues, but I'm the commissioner of all of them. So I'm on top of everything, and I have a whole. Everybody makes fun of this when I first send it out when the league starts. They call it, "Holy cow, where's this Bible coming from? How are we supposed to read this stuff?" But I tell you what's good about these local leagues is we go through the entire offseason and go article by article, piece by piece, every individual thing. We vote on every individual article. So I get confused sometimes, even more than they do now, because I'm in so many leagues and there's so many different rules, but everybody knows the leagues and my rules, and everybody knows the rules in my league, and I get corrected a lot. Hey, you said this happened, or the FAB budget was supposed to be 1,000 instead of 100. Why is that like that? Why is this guy able to trade, or why is that going on? Or we could trade FAB. Why is that not on? And it's like, wait a minute. Holy cow! I'm glad you guys are reading. This is awesome that everybody knows the rules in these leagues, but I'm getting confused with so many leagues, different rules. But it is nice to be in live leagues, and I couldn't imagine being in 100 leagues and trying to set lineups because, like Scott Sidlow says, he's in 100,000 leagues with the trade addicts, and he's like, I hate setting lineups. He's in best ball, and I'm like, who the hell would ever want to do best ball? It sounds like the stupidest idea in the world, but now I know why people do best ball when you're in 100,000 leagues.
We do. I almost look for best balls to take some of the heat off because, I'm not going to lie and Shell tell you this, Tuesdays are hell, man. It's hell. It's an uncomfortable feeling sitting down at your desk. Okay, here we go.
At 11 o'clock in the afternoon.
And it's what we do, but it's hard. It's really hard.
Central time at 11 o'clock when the injury report comes out. About 5 minutes later, I can hurry up and scatter through 13 lineups. But 100? How does that even happen? You have to do best ball at that point in time.
No, I probably have about 10.
Yeah, it's manageable. It's manageable, and that's if you can have fun and do it. All my stuff's live. Usually, I'm at one bar one weekend. Mostly by me, none of this stuff's not closed down. There's a lot of bars that are still wide open in the Chicago suburbs. The city of Chicago itself's closed, so everybody comes out here for stuff. But the bars are open. We still have chicken wings and pizza and beer and stuff, and watch the Sunday afternoon games. And it was a great season.
I tell you when it's okay to have 100 leagues. Week 17, and the money starts coming in.
There you go.
It's okay. It's okay.
This is the first year of my life I didn't win a championship. It kills me.
Dynasty Depot's got some sharp teams up there, brother. We'll get you hooked up there, man.
Yeah, right.
There you go. Anyone else have anything else from 2020 that they've taken from the season?
I do have one, and I'll be brief. I've your buddy McNamara, right? Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jordan McNamara. I was on a show with him a couple weeks ago with you, and got me
McNamara Dynasty.
At McNamara Dynasty. Guy's genius, and he actually got me really self-policing and thinking about taking those higher draft picks you got and moving down to get more draft picks because it's just the way he explained it. The guys that moved 101, 102 last year and picked up 109 and 112 ended up with Jefferson and whoever else they ended up with. Like the whole conversation is that these players coming out are so good. They're so NFL ready right now. A lot of them are assets, and the more you can get of them, the better chance you got of hitting and building a dynasty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Jordan's a big proponent of hitting those draft picks, and
he is. He's great, man. I don't know if everybody follows him on Twitter, but when he throws out 10 minutes ago,
it's 15 minutes of dynasty questions.
Minutes ago, and by the way, you start typing in your 15 in 1 second, you're not getting answered. I love it. He's good, man.
Yeah, shout out to Jordan. He might be working with us throughout the year. He's become pretty much a regular on the show. But so before we kind of turn the page into 2021, I've got some other ones. I think Dan, Schelly, and Theo, like combination of what you guys talked about between the running backs, the quarterbacks, and the receivers. For me in 2020, I feel like I've really figured out how I like to build rosters and how I've done it, like how I'm able to do it successfully. And I find wherever I've applied it, it's worked. So now it's something that I'm going to test with longevity, right? Because I feel like you have to keep evolving in anything you do, and fantasy is no different. So to say that you're only going to do this or only do that, if you do that with anything, you're not going to, continue to evolve and get better at it and continue to grow with it. So for me, I feel like I've figured out a pretty good way to build a roster that allows me to some wiggle room, based on whatever changes are happening in Fantasyland. But that's something that's come out of it. And I've talked about some of it. You guys touched on it, Dan. Like the last piece for me is something that I never even considered was go in and spend on a quarterback, like you said, especially in like a 1 QB. But I had the opportunity in the league I keep talking about to, close the deal. And I went out and spent on a Herbert for that reason, because I felt like, and last year it was the tight end awakening where, I ended up with Kittle on a lot of my FFPC teams, and that paid off, So I feel you got to be open to things, and maybe today you don't want to invest highly in whatever position, whether it's running back or tight end or quarterback, but be open to the idea and, listen to people that you respect and that maybe are successful and try it out for yourself. But I feel like it's type of game that allows you to figure out your own style, right? And that's the beauty of it. So we'll get more in depth as the season goes on details on, roster construction and all that. But that's something that I figured out in 2020. But before we go, like I said, into 2021 and turn the page, I'm going to throw this on the screen. Dan, I'm gonna throw this to you. We talked about the playoff challenges of the FFPC, and we went in great depth on quarter milli billies. But now there's kind of a second chance, if you want to call it that. Is that the right one that I have up right now?
Nope. You want the other one?
I don't. All right, fantastic. So why don't I take that off, and I'll let you talk, and I will try to go grab that.
All right. Yeah. So the FFPC is running a second contest, kind of a second chance, if you don't like the way your team's turned out in the first one. And it runs through the last 3 weeks of the playoffs. So starting this Saturday on through the Super Bowl. So it's basically the same deal as before, except you get an 8-player lineup instead of a 12-player lineup. So you're going to take one player from each NFL team. You can have one and only one player from that team. So every game that plays, you're going to have 2 players from that game basically going. And, the key is to be the one who has the best combination of 8 players and put together that championship. And it never seems to turn out quite like you might expect if you go chalk all the way. You're going to be hurting because there's going to be some players that aren't quite so chalky. They're going to outscore those chalk guys. So just trying to figure out how to put together that lineup so it all works together for the best. There's the $50,000 grand prize is $200 to enter. 1,200 teams is the maximum on that. And then there's another contest that has a $20,000 grand prize, $35 to enter it, 3,000 teams. It's basically the exact same contest, just make your entry point level.
Yeah, so you've got it on the screen there. FFPC is just always bringing something to keep it interesting, right? And it's maybe you missed on that first playoff challenge or you couldn't get in. Congrats, by the way, to our big winners that got free entries into our from our contest. But look, go check it out on the FFPC. 50 grand first place for what is it? 2-3 weeks of fantasy football that you're predicting. 8 players, 200 to enter, and then like Dan said, there's also a smaller buy-in as well. So go check that out. myffpc.com, guys. I don't know if we want to call these hot takes. I'm not like a hot take guy. I don't really like that. I feel like when I'm listening to a hot take, it's more about like who's going to be the more shock. What is that? What's the word I'm looking for? Shocking? Is that what I'm looking for? Dan, help me out. Translate, man. You're my translator.
Pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, like I feel like it's one of those where you're just trying to like it's a shock, like you're trying to shock people as much as possible, as opposed to saying something that you actually think might happen. So I hope, like I want to. Maybe it's more of a prediction for 2021 that we're going to go around. Anyone want to volunteer to go first?
I'll go ahead and toss out a couple of things.
Beautiful.
One of the things I always look at this time of year is salary cap. And I think this year is going to be a super interesting year from a salary cap standpoint, since the cap is actually going down instead of up. And that's catching a lot of teams short, because there are some general managers out there who are, they're real good at the cap gymnastics. And, they put together their contracts, and every year, you're like, how is this team going to get it done? They're like 25,000 or 25 million over the cap, and yet and it seems like they can't put together a good team, and yet they manage to do it. But I think there's at least a couple of those teams that probably are not going to be able to do that level of gymnastics. One of them is Nelson's favorite team, the Eagles. They're $74 million over the cap right now, and got some tough decisions to make. And the New Orleans Saints, $100 million over the cap right now. Yep. But so that's going to be interesting. But and there are a lot of teams, where you say, well, we're $5 million over the cap, but we release this guy and this guy, and we got $20 million. Now we can go out and sign a couple key free agents. We got enough money for our draft class. There's going to be fewer teams that are able to do that too. But there's going to be some interesting teams up top. As always, there's rebuilders like the Jags, who have $77 million extra in cap space. The Jets have $63 million extra in cap space. But they're not ready to compete, right? But you do have some interesting teams up there that are kind of ready to compete. You're going to have the Colts with about $69 million in extra cap space. The Patriots with almost $59 million in extra cap space right now. And that's with the cap dropping down as far as it did. So we're going to see, I think, some shakeups in, which teams are good and which teams are bad. And the fun of it is trying to fold that into your fantasy analysis and figure out, what does that mean, for these teams, and if a team that's way heavy on the cap, like the Vikings were last year, one of the ways they had to get under it was to get rid of some of their key defensive players and bring on a whole crapload of new, defensive players, especially in the secondary. And then all of a sudden we see what Nelson's, was talking about with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and Kirk Cousins. That defense is not playing so good anymore. They're not holding teams down, and the Vikings have to pass to catch up. So that's kind of the rebound effect, which for some reason I was able to figure out with Thielen, but I never quite put enough emphasis on Jefferson last year, much to my dismay. But, trying to get those things right, I think is going to be a big part of the fantasy game for next year. And just on if you want a little bit more of a specific one, I'm going to call it right now. Odell Beckham, never going to really be that fantasy relevant again.
Dan, why are you killing my one OBJ share in OG Goats? Come on, man. Why are you doing that shit?
I didn't even know who owned them in the OGs.
I'm kidding, man. I was never a fan, man. He's just one of those guys that got in a trade, but he's just one of those guys I'm just not a fan. Schelly, I'm going to go to you next because, I'm hoping you don't steal my thunder, but I'll go to you next just because the flow just goes more your way, from Dan's quaff to your fro. Let it flow, son.
I have a pre-COVID, slightly too loud bar, drunk man, being me, screaming this take in your face, and you just want me to get out of your face, but I will continue screaming it at you, take. And that is Keyshawn Vaughn will be a top 24 running back this year.
I like that.
Nice. I love it.
Ronald Jones stinks. He's had a couple of shots at this. Lenny, my guy, former Jag, he's not an athlete. He gets tackled for the first touch that somebody does. It doesn't break any tackles. He's got a patented spin move that he put on full display on the playoffs this past weekend. Now, I think Vaughn's got to figure out some of the fumbling. I think he's like to do that a little bit this year. But I think if again, I'm that drunk guy, I'm looking at myself and look, I think some of the sharper people than I have thought of this, target the ambiguous backfields, which I love thinking about. And again, I'm targeting right now, again, early January. I think Keyshawn Vaughn has a really good chance of being that guy. Or not really good chance. I think in my mind, he's got that likelihood of doing that. And I could see him, I could just as easily imagine a scenario where he pops like that. So that's my first one. Wanted to throw that out there. What's the reaction? How drunk am I?
I personally like that. I was the one thing I didn't mention about 2020 goodness for me is sports cards. Like I was talking Theo's ear off before you guys all came on, where it's something that I was into when I was a lot younger, in a closet, in a box somewhere, and then literally maybe 3 months ago got back into it, and I can't just like dabble into something. I got to go deep dive into it, and that's something that I'm thankful that I got out of 2020, that I'm back into it, and something that I recently did was buy like a bunch of cheap bond cards because like dude he's invisible, but we say it all the time, you want a running back on a really good offense, they might win the bowl, man, like legit win the bowl. Ronald Jones, like you said, maybe he makes it till the end of this year, but between now and even the offseason, those stocks have a chance to rise because there's going to be some hype around it. Maybe Fournette goes somewhere else. I don't know, Dan, you can chime in on the Fournette contract situation. I have no idea if he's back or not.
I'd be shocked if he's in Jacksonville next year.
Yeah, I feel like Vaughn is like the one sleeper rookie that didn't pop yet, and I love looking for those rookies who haven't popped yet. And Vaughn I love that you brought that in, man. Anyone else have anything to add on the Tampa running back?
Like it.
Yeah.
All right, John.
So I had one more for you. Not as drunk guy in bar though. This one, and again, this is a little.
You got to get a sound effect for that, Dan.
This one's a little self-serving, right? Because I don't know which way I want it to go. Because I will say that I've been screaming at my TV during the playoff challenge that my team's not dead yet. I could easily imagine a scenario where I'm taking home the $500,000. I
like how he says easily. He can
easily. I can easily imagine the scenario. I need to be at that pre-COVID bar again. No, so the question is whether I want this guy to pop or not, and it's Hollywood Brown. I have been seeing that. I was doing some research for the show, and I've just been seeing some like early 2021 rankings, and those are not worth much. But one thing that popped out to me was Hollywood Browns and this rankings consensus around like the low 30s, 40s, and I'm going to put it out there that he's going to be a top 12 wide receiver next year. I remember the Lamar Jackson throws to Hollywood Brown this year, and again, a lot of this hinges on Lamar connecting on those throws, but I think that they continue to scheme these guys open, and he was open a lot this year. And again, you just in your head, you imagine those balls falling gracefully in Hollywood's lap, and he has a totally different year. And he came on end of season. He was a big factor last week. I think he got to 7-8 catches, I think 99 yards. I think he's one to watch to just completely pop above this like wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, like morass there in like round like whatever, like 9, 10, whatever it's going to be. And I think he pops to be a top 12 wide receiver.
I love that, man.
There you go.
I like that one.
That's another one that I think is sneaky. I mean, he's got the draft capital. He's got he's made a little slow to adapt. He wasn't that the rookie coming into his new offense and adapting quickly, but you can see that chemistry building. And if I'm not wrong, I think in the last few weeks, he's all double digits with fantasy points. And that's something I noticed because I had him with Lamar stacked on a roster, and he was just not doing it, until I would say probably halfway through the season, where they started really connecting and consistently producing. And I think, like you said, that will only elevate as this offense, continues to evolve. do you guys have anything to add on that, or do you want anything to add with regards to your hot takes or whatever we call these tonight, the GOAT takes?
No, I love those. I kind of got, I'll start off with mine now. I'm going to go with Jalen Reagor. Everybody kind of says that I'm not sure that's a super hot take, but Philadelphia has got they're going to have to make a lot of room. They're going to get rid of a lot of people. They're not going to be able to sign anybody. Then they're going to, in the draft, they're going to draft a really, really good wide receiver. They got pick number 6, I think, number 6 or 7. They're going to bring in some super stud wide receiver. Yeah. And Reagor is not a number 1. But he'll be a fantastic number 2. He'll be, he could be a low end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 1 with the amount of volume he's going to get in that offense next year with the way they're cleaning house. A new quarterback, a new offensive system the system that the Matt Nagy and that they've been running, the Eagles offense, everybody knows it already. It's old news. It doesn't do anything, it doesn't produce. But with Reagor being able to be himself, get everything will be out of the way. I mean, it kind of was that way, but Nick Foles didn't really make it happen. But Nick Foles, I don't know why I said Nick Foles, but the offense is just going to change, and nobody's going to know what's going to happen. They're going to have complementary receivers, and Jalen Reagor is my number 1 guy, so that's my kind of a hot take. And then Zach Moss is my other one. Everybody says that, he's not much of a running back. I think he's faster. He's bigger. He can catch better. I'm not sure that offense is going to really, they're going to try and make Josh Allen less of a runner and more of a passer. You could see that evolution taking place in Buffalo, and they don't want to get him hurt. They know they have something special in their hand. They're going to try to run a game, and he's just a plant Singletary. He's going to be the number 1 guy in Buffalo, I think.
I think just Philly offense as a whole, whoever you find is talented in that offense, I'd be buying right now, whether it's Miles Sanders, Reagor, whoever it is. To me, that whole offense is a buy where you think the talent is. But with Moss, he's injured right now, isn't he?
He's injured, but we're talking about next year, as far as
I know, but that's an opportunity to jump on that right now. Like I'd be buying that all day right now if he's injured, right?
I love Moss. And I'm not sure exactly what the injury is yet. I didn't. It was something lower body, but it wasn't anything serious like a torn ACL. I think it was just more like bruises or something like that. So I love Moss. The problem was every time he would just get that opportunity to have a really good game, and then Singletary was kind of out of the back, he'd come up a 60-yard run for a touchdown. I was like, damn it, he was right there where he was going to take over this offense, and it just didn't happen this year. And then he got hurt, so we're gonna have to wait till next year. Yes, this is buying in the offseason on a guy like Zach Moss. I'm trying to get him on every league I possibly can, especially because people see Josh Allen running all these touchdowns in. There's a lot of running back competition in the backfield, but at some point in time, somebody's going to take over that offense, and I think Moss is going to do it. And as far as the Reagor is concerned, he was the flash in the pan. Everybody was the sleeper wide receiver from last year's draft, and he didn't really pan out. So he's a low buy right now too.
Let me give you a take on your Philly call there. So I don't care what team you take. You take 4 very good offensive linemen out for the season, okay, you're not going to throw the ball. So the Reagor call is great because you can really get him at a really good price right now all over the place. He busted his hand up. Okay, so you take a rookie with no OTAs, okay, learning football on a screen. And then he busted his hand up, missed 4 or 5 weeks, okay? Then the offensive line was gone. I don't think we know what he can do yet. The coaching staff was so dysfunctional there. Going back to what you said, you have what I think is a top 5 or 6 running back in the league getting 50% of the carries because we think a newly signed Jordan Howard deserves 5 carries. Boston Scott, 7 carries. It's bullshit. That's why the guy's out of a job. He didn't have a plan. Okay, he didn't execute with the players that he had. There is some talent there. They lost Lane Johnson, all-pro right guard. Brooks, all-pro right guard. Left tackle, right tackle, right guard. Okay, Kelsey, they lost. They don't have a left tackle. So you can't take anybody and expect them to perform at an NFL level to produce numbers for you. So I think a shot in the dark is Rager. It looked like, I'll tell you something crazy. He returned a punt for a touchdown in week 9, maybe. I don't think he returned 2 more punts the rest of the year.
Yeah, right.
Greg Ward returned a punt. What? Just dysfunctional shit going on over here.
Yeah, Carson Wentz was really kind of a letdown this year. When Hurts got his chance, he looked good, but he needs a lot of work. He's a project too. But whoever does take over that team next year, there will be a whole new regime, a whole new offense. It'll be set up, hopefully something with a structure at least.
Well, here's the only downside on Rager. You don't know who the quarterback's going to be here next year.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier about the talent, though. The talent can go anywhere and be talent.
But if it's Hurts, it's going to be more of a Sanders Hurts running type of Baltimore type of offense as opposed to Wentz, who's going to put it up 50 times.
Miles Sanders.
Sanders, I mean, that's another one that anyone else could have brought up as a definite buy right now.
Absolutely.
I agree. So I'm going to give you a prediction, JD. And this is, I think somebody once said, I have a dream out there, but I'm not sure. But I had a dream. I'm going to take a team that I don't like, but I like the player. He's probably my most owned player. I think he is going to go to a team that has some salary cap problems, but he's going to pair with a receiver called Devontae Adams, and Allen Robinson and Devontae Adams will end up with the Packers and both top 5 fantasy next year. I got a dream. The floor is yours.
Wow, that would be awesome.
The guy deserves to play for the
I was hoping for
that'd be dirty. I mean, but who knows, right? It's the Packers. They never do what you kind of want them to, right?
I had a dream.
The season started out with the Packers with such bad vibes, such bad everything going on, and I think that team just kind of they came together, they got rid of all their indifferences, and they're on the same page now. And I wouldn't doubt if they said, "Hey, Rodgers, who do you want on this team? Who should we go get for you?" And make him happy for the last year or two. I mean, that's the way I look at it. That's a great call. Awesome. I mean, that's great vision.
Danny, you can confirm. I think they got cap problems, maybe $30 million over the cap.
Yeah, they're not in as bad a shape as a lot of teams.
They're over. They're
not great either. They're at I guess they are a little bit further down. They're $24 million over the cap.
That makes sense.
So they got some issues to fix for sure.
Nelson, I'm hearing your take being screamed across the bar, and I'm raising a glass to you. You're yelling your drunk take, and I'm appreciating your drunk take from across the way. I love it.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, my personal guess is the Packers are probably going to, instead of investing a lot into the free agent market, they're probably going to end up having to go through the draft, and maybe they finally do draft a receiver with a first or second round pick. It's been a long time, but it could happen.
As defending Super Bowl champs, you mean?
But man, it's so fun to Allen Robinson in Green Bay. If that happened, that would be.
Give me one player, stud player, that is still a stud, always been a stud, with Blake Bortles and Mitch Trubisky and putting up the numbers.
A-Rob is so valued in fantasy.
I mean, you got to feel bad for that guy. I mean, he should play for free. He doesn't care. Play for free for whatever the best team and best quarterback can go to, just so he can sleep at night.
There you go. I think that's fair.
Theo, what do you got for before I drop mine? What do you have for 2021?
Well, I had a few. I think that the 2020 rookie class continues to make massive impacts in fantasy football, and I am looking for about 4 to 5 running backs from the 2020 class being running back ones next year. I think when you start looking at Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift, Antonio Gibson, a chance CEH steps up. I wouldn't bet on it happening again, but James Robinson. I think that you have so many guys who are in such high volume situations with talent behind them in feature roles that you can look for those guys to be, great draft pick values next year. A lot of those guys are going to be second round picks that can perform like first rounders. And then my two big predictions are, I'm doing rankings right now for breakoutfinder.com, and these two guys I keep wanting to rank higher and higher. I will say Jonathan Taylor is the number one running back in all of fantasy football.
Why are you taking my thunder, dude? Like, I bring you on the show, I put out a tweet like a few days ago, and then you come on here and just put out. You just sat right on my flame.
I did not mean to steal your thunder.
Farted on my flame. Dan, did you just fart on my flame?
Oh man!
Did he just like let one rip right on my? No, I'm joking.
We are on the same wavelength. I think that when you look at the situation, Dan brought up the cap space. They're going to be in a tremendous situation next year. You've got to figure that you could have an improved quarterback play. Taylor already caught 36 passes. I think that he's going to go over 50 catches next year. His touchdown upside is immense. We all see the talent. He's going to be 22 years old next year. And when you start looking at him from, we talk a lot of Dynasty tonight, but when you start looking at a redraft, once you get past Christian McCaffrey, I think Jonathan Taylor is right up there for consideration for second pick overall in redraft. In Dynasty, he's the number one pick in Dynasty startups right now. And I think that he's just going to take over the league and continue what we saw down the stretch. And then my other prediction was a little bit more out there.
See, like, why couldn't you say that one? Like, why? I know. I should
have screened this one. I'm sure you've got some good ones in there, JD. But my other one was, I think that this is the year that it all happens for A.J. Brown. I think there's a chance A.J. Brown is the number one wide receiver in football next year. When you start looking at his talent, the guy is going to be 24 years old next season. He struggled with a few knocks this year, injury-wise. Target-wise, he was only 7.1 a game, and he still averaged 17.7 points per game. I think with the chances of Corey Davis leaving as a free agent, there's a chance Jonnu Smith leaves. I think it's going to be A.J. Brown receiving a massive target share. I think you're going to see the targets go up. And I think there's a chance that he is the number one wide receiver in all of fantasy football next year.
Dan, I feel like Theo didn't get the memo that he already got the job. Like, he's already part of the team. He doesn't need to, like,
I know. I'm talking about Dan's favorite player.
He's taking Dan's 101, and then he the intro, he just scoops away my 101 going into 2021, which is the JT Master, the monster out there in Indy. Not Theo. That's. I knew as soon as you told me you did your homework, I was fucked. Like, I knew right there that.
I mean, it's hard to get away from it. It's really hard to get away from it.
No, the reason I threw out a tweet before the game on. I'm an Indy fan, but I love JT, man, and I kind of love that he started slow because I managed to grab another couple shares when people were thinking, no, he's not going to pop and all that. But the thing for me is you saw him drop some passes in that game against Buffalo, but you saw a bunch of other people drop passes, and that's because of the quarterback. This dude was number 2 in catch rate at the position, 87.8% catch rate. So get old man Rivers out of there. Bring in Deshaun the Beast Watson out there in Indy, and let's dance. Let him launch that ball to Pittman a bit. Get a little TY action in there. Hines coming out of the backfield. I mean, JT will be dancing 200 yards a game easy. But, I mean, there's nothing for me not to like about Jonathan Taylor. Put me as an Indy fan aside. You're talking offensive line, coach, just the way this team is built with defense. You always associate you want to associate your running back to a good offense, but you want to associate it to a good defense because that dude's going to be running the ball to slow the clock, get the opposing offense off of the field or whoever their stud is. And JT is going to come in next year and just destroy this league. And that's the way I see it. And Dan, who was my 101 last offseason?
Alvin Kamara.
Who finished 101 this year, Dan?
That would be Alvin Kamara.
All right. Well, Twitter heard it. over the weekend. You guys are hearing it now. JT will be my 101 in any best ball, any draft, or anything that I do this offseason going into 2021 because he's my 101. See that, Theo? I can still come in and bring a bit of thunder, you know?
JD, I have a question.
Absolutely.
JD, how's he going to do, and Theo, how's he going to do catching 50 balls when Wentz is throwing them into the dirt on 5-yard swing passes? That's what I'm wondering next year.
Why are you bringing that voodoo to my team, brother? Come on.
I'm just letting you know you're going to have a certain North Dakota.
You guys got Hurts, and then you got to come bring voodoo on my team. You know, we lost luck. Come on, man.
Wentz is going to have a little more time to throw the ball as well behind that.
He will have more time.
A little.
He will.
A little bit more time.
In redraft, if you drafted, what are they start up FFPC, I think, non-dynasty, but the redrafts like right after the NFL draft. If you drafted that week and JD, he's your 101, you've got to pick later in the first round. Can you get him the last week of April at 110, at 111, at 112, or do you think that he is going to be hitting that mid-round already? Like, is the hype train going to be rolling that quickly on him?
No, I think those drop passes from Rivers, they were a blessing for me because people don't know that he's anyone not listening, they don't, or not on Player Profiler or whatever site I'm looking at, 88%, catch rate, number 2 in the league. For a guy, let's put that aside. I don't think people know he finished RB8 in fantasy points per game. People were giving this guy away at midseason for nothing. And you gotta give rookies. You gotta be a little more patient. And I learned that from Dan. And I've said this on this show a million times. You have to be patient in fantasy, especially with these rookies, even at a position that we expect to fluctuate really quickly. Sometimes it's a little slow. Melvin Gordon was an example of that. JT is an example of that. And people who took advantage of that are going to reap the rewards in 2021.
I mean, Schelly, I think the lowest I see him going in an early draft is 8. I think 8's the lowest. I think that's the floor at this point. And I think he's the kind of guy that as the summer steam keeps going, he's going to be that guy that everybody wants, and he'll be a top 5 pick. I mean, it's Christian McCaffrey. Most people are still going to take number 1, but then you start putting Taylor in that group with Henry, Cook, Alvin Kamara, Saquon, and then, in FFPC, Travis Kelce will be in that mix, and Devontae Adams. I think that's your top 8, but Taylor will have a lot of steam as the summer goes on.
Yeah, and that's the question. And I agree, right? Because I think it's and the point that I think that we're all trying to make is maybe draft early and often, right? If you're interested in JT, see if you can't steal him late in the first round before that summer steam happens, where he's almost like a lock to be the top 4, right? Maybe you could steal him at 8. Maybe you could steal him.
There's going to be a lot of wide receiver hype, guys. There's going to be a lot of Adams in that first round, DK, AJB. They're going to push those guys back a bit.
What we can look at is that early FFPC 2-round mock that we did a couple weeks ago. Myself and a few other people put together by Fantasy Mojo, the real degenerates, we got together and did our little mock. And McCaffrey was the first pick, Dalvin Cook second, Jonathan Taylor third. So I hate to burst your bubble, Schelly.
No. But question, was that you that took him at 103?
It was.
That'd be awesome if it was.
Why would you ask a question like that?
Avoid Dan if you want to get him at 108 early in this offseason.
Dan is the ADP mover.
There were several people just after me who said, if you hadn't taken him, I would have. So, I think you can throw Taylor, Kamara, Kelce, Devontae Adams. You can probably throw them in almost any order. They're going to be kind of mixed up in there. But as Theo was saying, then you get down to number 8, and that's you got Barkley and Henry in there too to get yourself to 8, and then all of a sudden you're into Zeke Elliott and I think anybody with a brain is going to be taking Taylor over Elliott. I mean, I know Elliott's still going to have his fans. Everybody's got to have their Zeke fix, but I think Taylor is going to be consensus over Zeke at that.
But let's say you're in a dynasty startup, Superflex, tight end premium, like 1.75, and you got pick number 11, and Jonathan Taylor falls to you. Do you take him there, or do you trade the massive amount of picks to make up for?
Well, I mean, it's whatever you can get. If you feel like you can get more than what Taylor is worth, you take the deal. But Taylor's one of those players that you might be able to take him right there. And you might be able to trade him for even more, a few weeks into the season if you find that you're not going to be, one of the likely playoff teams. So he's a guy I would probably just take and hold because he will give you, you're probably going to be able to unload him for a lot if you are not competing, and he gives you the opportunity to compete right away.
Yeah, once everybody's team's said and done and they see the construction and someone's got 3 or 4 guys that really interested in your team that are, you have high hopes on, I guess it's a good move.
Anyone have any other hot takes before we close this thing out? I know Nelson, even though he was part of stretching this out, I don't want to bring it to 2 hours or anything. All right, real quick, Deshaun Watson, I don't care where he goes. He's going to be the QB1 next year.
Miami.
Love where he goes. I don't give a shit where he goes. And I hope he goes to Indy so that him and JT can just smash it up together. But that's not going to happen. So let's go to Theo. You've been a little quiet. We'll start off with you, brother. Remind the people where they can find you, any of your goodness or anything you want to tell the peeps, and we'll pass it to John next.
You can find me on the OG Fantasy on Twitter, and then you can find my writing on breakoutfinder.com. Right now we're doing a top 60 for 2021 redraft article with a couple segments coming out. It should all be finished up by the Super Bowl.
JF McGlynn, at John McGlynn 75. I'm glad I'm going early here because I ain't got much to say. I'm on Twitter a lot. I participate in all the polls, trades. I try to do whatever I can on jumping on our podcast around anywhere I get a chance to. Not much of a writer, but I'm trying to do the best I can to I don't know how to type. So it takes me about 17 years to write one article. So that's the problem there. Got a lot going through my head. I can help anybody out. I love being here. I love being on this GoatCast. The Goat District I've been a fan forever. So just being here is, enough fantasy football for me. The guys around me right now, and I'm the 5-hole right now in this situation. And
I don't like that.
And just, man, yeah, that's your name. You can keep it. But sitting here right now around all this talent right now, this is what I wanted to do my whole life, is be in a place like this with guys like you doing this. So just thanks a lot for the opportunity, guys.
Appreciate you, man. We appreciate you. And before we close the guest list with our boy Nelson, I'll go to Schelly first. Buddy, always a pleasure, man. I just love the way your brain works. And tonight it just, happened again, man. I was like, I love the way he said that. Why doesn't my Canadian French brain work that way, But remind the people where to find your goodness, man, before we close this out.
No, this is easy then. So on Twitter at AM Schellenberg, I say dumb things in dumb ways every once in a while. If you love that content, you'll love following me for my periodic tweets. Last thing I'll say before I close this out, I will guarantee to you that if the Browns and the Bucks make the Super Bowl, I'm a $500,000 winner.
That is so.
That's it. I would have won the playoff challenge if that happens.
I'm rooting for you.
There you
Lock
go.
it in.
Green screens for everyone.
Nice.
Absolutely. That's what I mean. My daughters are like, well, what happens if you win? I'm like, I'll buy you both cell phones. What do you want? They want the dumbest things. They just want to play their games, watch their YouTube videos. I'm like, yeah, sure. If I win $500,000, you can have phones.
Yeah, but that's why you got to prep them and tell them that it's really 50,000. I might win 50,000. I'm going to win 50 large.
But yeah, Browns, Bucks. If that happens, I'm feeling great.
There you go, man. You heard it here. Nelson, we're going to close with you, brother. We appreciate the partnership. I'm glad that the site's blowing up. Remind the people what it's where they can find it, and anything else you want to shout out.
Yeah, I'll give a quick shout out here, and then I do have an announcement. So we will you can find me at the Dynasty Depot, and anybody out there that needs something to do in the off season, because that's what it was created for, just something to do in the off season, sifting through teams, bidding, go to dynastydepot.com, click on the homepage, take a free 30-day trial, come on board. We'd love to have you. So me and JD are going to switch seats in a couple weeks as we are launching Dynasty Depot Live's new show. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I'm going to sit in JD's chair and try to run our first show. We got a bunch of great guests lined up, and JD is our first co-host. Hopefully he'll just run the show and I'll answer the questions.
I will not fart in your candle like Theo did. No, I'm
I
kidding.
would not like that. I would not like that. But I will put you in the 5-hole and see how you like it.
I might bring a jock.
Yeah, man. So on the 25th, we're going to be shooting our first live show, and we're excited. JD is going to be our first and inaugural guest. All 3 people out there probably be watching it, but I guess you got to start somewhere, right? So hopefully JD will promote it so all his fans can come watch Dynasty Depot live.
All 3 of my fans will be there, brother. Trust me.
I love it.
My mom, my wife. No, I'm joking. Nah, man. Look, you guys have been awesome. We always say we're going to do this an hour, and we're at 1:30 something. So we thank the listeners. One thing I got to say that I didn't mention out of 2020, over 50,000 downloads from you crazy listeners is pretty awesome. Dan and I get together once a week and we reach out to people that we respect and we want to pick their brain a bit. And you guys tune in, and you've done it regularly, and it's grown nicely. And hopefully you keep telling your friends. Don't have to tell your league mates, but at least tell your friends, your relatives, that kind of thing about the Goat District. And one thing that we were doing tonight was introducing some of these new team members. Is we want to expand on the goodness that we're offering. And Dan and I want to put together something that, helps you in different aspects of fantasy. So you'll see in the next few weeks some of these new additions to the Goat District that'll come drop their goodness on the regular, and what that could be DFS. That, like, up to now, it's been really dynasty focused, right? And we've talked to quarter milli billies with redraft big tournaments, but we're going to bring in some DFS action. We're going to bring in some different things that you haven't seen on the Goat District. And as you know, we're bringing the goats to drop that goodness. And that's what we promised you guys. So stick around. It's the off season, but it's never an off season. And this is a perfect example. We could go on for another 5 hours easily right now with what's going on. And there's a few, maybe 2-3 weeks left right now of football. If you haven't checked it out yet, Monkey Knife Fight, mybookie.com. The playoffs are here. There's different ways for you guys to enjoy them, gamble. We talked about the playoff challenge use the code GOAT on MyBookie and Monkey Knife Fight. If you want to hook up on the playoff challenge on FFPC, or maybe you want to get ready, or you want to jump into the Dynasty Depot and you need to sign up for FFPC, you haven't done that yet, reach out to me at Goat District. I will hook you up with an exclusive initial download kind of bonus that FFPC will throw into your account when you first sign up. But that's pretty much it, man. We appreciate you guys sticking around. We'll keep bringing the goodness this off season. Good luck whether you're in the playoff challenge, or you're just betting on the games, or just enjoying them. Maybe your team is, maybe you're lucky enough to have your teams. My Colts couldn't pull it off, but we hope you enjoyed this weekend and make a bit of cash on the side. But stay tuned for a big year, man, in the Goat District, and stick with us. Thanks for listening. Be safe out there, and we'll check you all.
district, you know the Pope listens. Dynasty, our religion, for the blokes missing. On all of these trades, on all of these plays, on all of these grades. By the end of the day, y'all getting played. So, what you gonna do next? Try to fill up that flex? Send the homie a text? That trash offer's the best? You try to make it complex, then they text you back. Now all of a sudden, they don't make any sense. Broaden your horizons, boy. Dynasty's not for the Simons, boy. These trades not for consignment, boy. Respect your opponent, y'all some piranhas, boy. This my advice from me to you. Open up your cute little podcast queue. Search up GOAT District, my dude. Pop it in your ear, man. Y'all know what to do. It's the... And I always be traded. And I always be traded. And I always be trading. Y'all try to betray them, but first you gotta bait them. Fish.